Every time you come around. Okay, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Come on in. It's been a while since we did a live. Your girl has been outside gallivanting the globe here and there a little bit. Nothing major. I was just away in Jamaica doing some mental health and wellness work down there with community and of course exploring the beautiful country. So it's been a while since I've been on here. So welcome. Come on in. We are live in 3 places right now. We're live inside the sanctuary as I usually am on Wednesday nights. Also live on Instagram, also live on TikTok. So come on in, let me know where you're joining from. Tonight we're going to be talking about getting out of your head and into your body. So if you know anybody who is struggling with reconnecting with themselves, it feels like they're always in their head, they're always in survival mode, feel free to share this live with them. It's going to be a really good discussion as a follow-up to a talk that I did on Friday that is all about reconnecting to our power as women, which is through our creativity, our pleasure, our joy, and you can find that on YouTube. But let me know where you're joining from. Put in the comments where you're joining from. Come on in, welcome in. So I'm not going to be on here for super long today. I'm noticing there's a bit of a connection issue on Instagram. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully you get sorted. For the folks that are in here, welcome in, okay? So I'm not going to be on here for long. Again, we're going to do this live on here, and then I'm going to go into the sanctuary where we're going to actually do some embodiment practices. We're going to do some somatic healing practices. So tonight we are doing my favorite Het Heru healing dance, which is all about the womb, unlocking the womb, letting the womb breathe, letting her be open, letting her be free. And we are going to reconnect with the womb wisdom through the dance and through this practice. So if you really are interested and curious what this looks like and what this is about, join the sanctuary. If you're a woman, this is a private, closed community for women who are all about healing and moving past survival mode into a life of joy and pleasure. So the link is in my bio if you want to join the school community. And it's free for 7 days, so come on and browse around and fill your boots, and if you like it, stay. We would love for you to stay, but if not, there's no commitment needed. All right, so tonight, get out of your head and into your body. Ladies, listen up, this one is for you. We spend so much of our time in today's world hustling, grinding, performing, right? We have so many responsibilities on us, and we know this, right? This is something I talk about all the time. Most women that come to me that seek out my services, holistic services, wellness services, they're stuck in survival mode. They are stuck in the system of performing, of managing, of reducing crisis, of pouring, of caretaking, right? We're over giving. We're doing so much for others and for community, which is part of our gift and power, but we're not taking the time to get back to that ancient wisdom that is timeless, that is really showing us how to preserve ourselves, preserve our energy, right? So men, they get their energy from this physical realm, this place that we're in, right? Through things like strategizing, through logic, through even physical strength, right? Like working out, staying physically fit. I'm not saying this is not important for ladies, right? We have a different way of moving. We have a different way of moving physically and moving in this world. But women, when we're depleted, right? When we feel stuck and lost, we don't get our strength from this physical world. We get our strength from the spiritual world, right? So what does this mean? This means we get our strength when we quiet down, when we slow down, when we actually tune in to ourselves and reconnect with our power, which is the womb, which is the sacral chakra. So how do we connect with the sacral chakra? How do we connect with our womb wisdom? It's not through strategy. It's not through performing. It's not through competition. It's not through building. It's actually through rest. It's through the principles of this area, which is creativity. So, do some art, create something. Through joy. What's something that brings you joy? Right? What's something that makes you happy, that makes you laugh, that makes you joyful, that makes you feel like a little kid again? Through pleasure. Sorry, I'm going to decline that. Through pleasure. What are some things that bring you pleasure? What are some things that really make you feel like you're in your body? Like, oh, this feels so good, right? For some of us, it's a piece of chocolate. For some of us, it's sitting in the hot tub, right? For some of us, it's a massage. For some of us, it's something else, right? What are the things that bring you pleasure? What are the things that actually make you feel good in your body, right? That make you feel turned on and excited for life, right? Not an excited that is chaotic, but just embodied and really present, right? So that's how we reconnect to our power. It's through pleasure, it's through joy, it's through creativity, right? It's things that are beautiful, pouring into ourselves, right? Whether it's beautiful, like going, art, or going to a museum, or really taking in, nature and scenery, or it's beautifying ourselves, right? Taking a bath, oiling our skin, taking care of our hair, right? Exfoliating. Like, that is actually a very meditative process. When you begin taking the time to actually rub lotion, rub oil on yourself, oil your hair, massage your scalp, that is a very meditative spiritual practice, because that cannot be a rushed thing. You need to be slow and you need to be intentional when you're doing these things. And you also become more mindful and aware of your body, like what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what hurts, right? Maybe there's things that are new that are going on in your body that you can't really pay attention to when you're rushing from your 9 to 5. But that time, that sacred time when we're pouring into ourselves and practicing that act of beautifying ourselves and self-love, that is an opportunity for us to reconnect again with our wisdom, with our internal wisdom. Okay, so we are moving out of strategy, out of logic, out of hustling. I don't know if you have ever experienced a type of anxiety where you're just sitting there and your mind is racing for no reason. You'll just be sitting there in stillness, and it's almost like your body becomes tense, right? It's over functioning. It's in that survival mode, and there's nothing wrong. There's no fire. There's no emergency, but your body is in fight or flight at all times, right? There's no outstanding tasks. There's no emergency that needs to be taken care of, but you're sitting there in a state of fight or flight, right? Your body's tense, your mind is racing, right? How do we get out of that? Again, through coming back to our body, through things that bring us joy, through the things that bring us pleasure, through that self-love, through adornment, through beautifying ourselves. We really have to start to be comfortable and start feeling safe being inside of our body. Right? And for most of us who've been disconnected from our bodies for a long time, maybe you experienced trauma, maybe, you were a single mom, maybe you are, a high performer, or, people pleaser, maybe you've been stressed and burnt out for a long time, you become so disconnected from your body, and that keeps us up here. It's like you're constantly problem solving, you're constantly like managing things, you're constantly on the lookout, you're in fight or flight. You don't know when the next threat or request or issue is going to come up that you have to solve, right? So you're in this frame of mind that's keeping us right here. You might have difficulty sleeping, changes in your eating patterns. These are all symptoms of fight or flight, that you're in survival mode. And again, how do we get out of that? By reconnecting to our body. So slowing down, having embodied practices, so that pouring into yourself, right? Slowing down, doing a piece of artwork, writing, journaling, meditating, and praying, right? Like just sitting in silence and listening to the wisdom that's coming through you internally. And for some of us, sitting in silence is so uncomfortable. That does not feel safe at all. Just to sit in silence, take a nap, that is really threatening to a lot of women, because you don't know when someone's going to come and need you. You know, you've been conditioned to be the problem solver, right? Any first daughters in the room, right? You've been conditioned to be the problem solver, to be the leader, to be the, to outperform or outshine, be a high achiever. So resting can feel like a threat, right? It feels like you're missing out on something, or you're wasting time, or you don't deserve it. Essentially, there's something you need to be doing. But how do we shift out of that mode? Quieting the mind, coming back to the body, right? That's what we need to do. And at first it's going to feel like a threat. It's going to feel really uncomfortable. But the more you get into it, the more you practice it. I put a timer on my phone, 5 minutes, right? Because your girl is in this industry, but I've come through stuff, and I experienced the same thing, where my body can just instantly shift into survival mode, right? Instantly shift into fight or flight. So I'll put a timer on my phone, 5 minutes. And we just lay in stillness for 5 minutes. And what comes up, right? What actually comes up for you in that stillness and in that quietness, right? Those are things you got to be mindful of. You got to pay attention to. And we got to get in the practice of not just listening to ourselves, but sometimes talking to ourselves, right? Because I'm going to go off topic here for a minute, but when you're actually, and I've experienced this recently, so I'm talking about it, but when you're actually in alignment, when you're on a path that is taking you somewhere, there are forces out here. There are spirits, and there are people, energies that do not want you to succeed, right? And it might show up as depression, it might show up as anxiety, it might show up as imposter syndrome, it might show up as like being a devil's advocate. And these thoughts, these perceptions and perspectives can start running through your own head. So we got to get in the practice of also talking to ourselves and discerning the voice of, is this intuition or is this ego? Is this intuition or is this self-sabotage, right? And I don't even want to go into this, but that's a whole other session. But just on a high level, ego is always going to come from a place of disempowerment. Intuition is always going to come from a place of empowerment. So ego will tell you, quit this job. They don't deserve you. You're too good for them. They're not recognizing, your contributions. Intuition will tell you, this is a time for you to grow. You're ready to expand. You're moving from a place of groundedness and clarity versus urgency and desperation. Okay. I hope that makes sense, right? The system that we live in now does not really create the conditions for us to slow down. And I'm very aware of that, right? I don't want to be a person who is asking you to do things that are just not possible, right? And I understand, because I also juggle multiple hats. I work multiple jobs. I'm a single mom, right? Entrepreneur, have a nonprofit, all of these things. However, I'm calling it a Babylon system because I just came from Jamaica, and it's true. Like it is a Babylon system. It's really designed to keep us stressed and oppressed, right? And it is a patriarchal system at the same time. So anything that's logical and measured and quantifiable, those things are prioritized and praised. And anything that is intuitive and slow and rested and paced and mindful, these things are not as prioritized in this society. So it feels like you're constantly going against your intuition at all times. But this is important for us as women. Don't give up. Don't give up the fight. This is our resistance. Our rest is our resistance. It's actually our liberation, more than just resistance. This is how we find our power and our liberation and our freedom as women. This is where we step back into our divine birthright, which is divinity, right? I spoke about this on Friday. You can watch the video on YouTube. We live in a world where, again, those feminine principles are suppressed. However, if you look back in ancient history, right, this patriarchal system is fairly recent when you look at the history of the world. Women and feminine principles were glorified. We were up in the temples, we were up in, the churches and the pyramids and art. There were, female deities everywhere, right? God, we put God into a gender, right? We try to box God in. God is beyond, these societal constructs, right? God is feminine, is masculine, is all of the things, and there's principles within that we can honor and apply to ourselves. But we need to, as women, reclaim our power, right? We need to have our lotus status reinstated. That means our full enlightenment, our full power. We need to have that reinstated to us by doing the practices that our ancestors have taught us. As women, it's not about hustling, it's not about grinding. It's literally about embodied practices, resting, pouring back into yourself, slowing down. Okay, that is our liberation. Don't fall into the trap of these systems and feel like you're not doing enough and not performing enough. This is all man-made, right? Literally. These are all man-made. These are all oppressive practices that are meant to keep us disempowered, keep us disconnected from ourselves, and keep our true power from blossoming and coming to fruition. And these systems, whoever created them, they're not stupid. They know that women are super powerful. So when we create these systems that are so oppressive, we keep the power down and manageable, right? She don't have to listen to her intuition. We're going to keep her so busy. She don't even reconnect with herself. We're going to keep her so busy. She has no time for joy and creativity. We're going to keep her burnt out and stressed so that she cannot tap into the truth, right? And her birthright and her abundance, okay? That is all systemic, and it's intentional, right? These systems are not an accident. So how are we gonna reclaim that? We're gonna go to the picnic. We're gonna go to the beach. We're gonna beautify ourselves without the shame, right? There's no shame. It's not vanity to look beautiful. It's not vanity to spend time and money on your beauty. That is part of your power as women, right? We're gonna slow down. We're gonna laugh. We're gonna, we're not gonna perform. We're not gonna stress ourselves out going, 100 miles a minute to impress or please, the higher ups. That's not what we're doing. That's intended to keep us disempowered. We're gonna slow down. We're gonna pour back into ourselves, right? Returning to the body brings clarity. So I want to ask you right now, what is one thing that brings you joy? I want you to put it in the chat. What's one thing that brings you joy? If it's hard to answer, there's no shame. And I want you to answer what's one thing that brings you pleasure. I want you to tell me one thing that brings you pleasure. There's no shame. Put that in the chat, okay? And this could be anything from doing art, from writing, from dance, from pouring back into yourself. Like for me, it's literally sitting in the bath with my Epsom salts, with some essential oils, and then putting some beautiful oil on my body after. That brings me so much pleasure. That makes me feel like a divine goddess, right? I have my music on, I have my incense on. I want you to let me know what brings you joy and what brings you pleasure. Someone said a brownie brings me pleasure. Nice chocolate brownie. I feel you. I do love a good chocolate brownie. That definitely is something that brings us pleasure. Right? Being on the playground with your kids, that brings you joy. I love that. I love that. And kids, if you have a hard time getting into a space of joy and just like out of your head, hang around some kids for like 5-10 minutes. I promise you, they will get you out of your head faster than anything. And you need to not be the adult. You need to not be the control freak. If they say they want to play grounders, if they want to play tag, if they want to play hide and seek, you just have a yes day with those kids and let them teach you how to get into that playful mode, how to get into that joyful mode, okay? So I hope that that was helpful. I hope that that was good. I hope you took something away. You can rewatch this. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to move into a dance. So inside the sanctuary, we're going to go into the Het Haru healing dance. So I'm really excited about that. You can find that on YouTube. We're going to do that as a group. It's this closed group of women inside the sanctuary. So if you want to join, you can join. The link is in my bio. Join free for 7 days. We really get into embodiment practices in there. We do dance, we do self-massage, we do sound healing, we do self-reiki, we do meditation and breath work, we do yoga. There's a lot that we do inside the sanctuary to get us back into loving ourselves and slowing down and really getting into these embodied practices, again, so we can reconnect with our power. So feel free to join us in there. Hope you guys have a lovely night. Thank you for joining, and we'll talk soon. Ciao.